Okay. We're on YouTube. Okay. I think we're good to go.
You recording there, Lee? You got it? All right, so good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the April AIDA Board meeting. Katie, would you begin by doing roll call?
Okay, Ms. Weber McLeod,
Here.
Mr. Cuddy,
Present.
Mr. Genatino, excuse, Ms. Crawford, I'll leave her pending. Mr. Andre,
Present.
Ms. McIntyre, here. Mr. Lovell,
Here.
Ms. Walter, here. And Ms. Leon is excused.
So I sent the agenda out in advance with some love notes, things we would be discussing. What I'd like to do is that if everyone had an opportunity to take a look at the minutes, do we have any corrections? Everything was okay? Give you a minute just to review.
I just have one typo,
Mhm,
just in the word treasurer by Tessa's name,
mhm,
because he's not in there.
mhm.
Oh, yes, it is. Okay,
Any other corrections on the minutes?
I'll move, we accept the minutes.
I was gonna channel you. I know you and Dan have to be an important place, so we're getting, thanks for. I know we will. Listen, you all won't be out there, let's see, that's one word. That's like, I'm not that. I think you got a minute to settle in. Not hearing any other changes or revisions to the minutes, I'd accept a motion to approve the minutes.
I'll move it.
We got 3 seconds, so it was Katie and Karen.
okay,
The packet also, it's organized in the order in which we're gonna review things, right? So I had Katie just do things single-sided, so we get our own notebook back together, okay? The next thing on the agenda is, Katie, would you like to review any bills?
yeah, we have 2 bills. One is from, Randall and McKean for our, audit, $9,959. The other is to pay, I only had one person other than Gwen that, signed up for that academy, and that's Karen, so it's $175 for her, registration for that. So those are the 2 actual bills I'm asking for. I also, if the board doesn't mind, wanted to ask permission. This is the check writing bookkeeping system that AIDA's had for years. Going back to 2016, these are a minor pile of all the voided checks. I would really like to get computer checks because it just feels more accurate. I enter it into the computer before I even print them, and they come out with all the stuff they need, but it's potentially, I'll get the smallest amount because we don't write a lot of checks, but could potentially be around $200, I think. So I just wanted to request that if we can.
And just a point of clarification, the IDA Academy, the IDA Academy, that Karen and I were going to attend was postponed till July. Did they still want us to pay the registration?
Oh, I don't know. It wasn't due quite yet anyhow, but I mean, I can hold off on it if people approve it until we.
Okay, so we could get it approved and then when the registration's open, because I sent my in as well.
And depending on the date, I would be interested to see if I could
Okay.
fit that in my schedule, maybe others want to do something.
All right,
Yeah, I was gonna say we could maybe send it out to the board again.
Yes.
Maybe it's a good time for something.
that would be great. That would be great.
Okay.
Right, so we have 2 bills, one to Daniel on the key to cover the cost of our audit. What was the cost of that, Katie?
It was 9,000. $950.
They were auditing away. All right, and then we had, are we, just clarification, are you suggesting, Katie, that we just wait before we send anything else out for the IDA Academy, so we don't need to approve that? Or are you asking us to approve that now, so when it
We
rolls
could
around?
hold off on it because if other people can come, we can get that good rate, which we couldn't now, so
Perfect,
I will just put that down as pending.
okay, great. So then the primary bill that we need approval for would be to pay our Daniel and McKee audit bill. A motion, please,
So moved.
second? Great. Any more discussion?
Just curious to make sure that's what we're expecting the cost to be.
Is that in alignment with where it was?
I think it was about 8,500 last year, if I'm remembering, so it's a little bit more.
Right. Any other questions or concerns about that?
I mean, I'm imagining there was probably a little bit more, you know, to kind of like
Navigate.
point us in the right direction.
Right,
So then that might have been, but as long, I mean, last year, if it was 8,500, at least it's like within the ballpark, you know, as far as what that, but yeah, I would say it's acceptable, but they were going up, and I remember there was also discussion that they were going to increase their fee from the previous year, so.
any other discussion about the audit bill?
Well, we could request the engagement letter. You do have that?
I signed the engagement letter for this particular year's audit.
Okay.
The other thing, if you took a look at our to-do list, meticulously kept by Karen as a visitor and now as a board member, one of the things the board will consider in this year is, I think this is the year we would put out to bid, put out an RFP for an auditor, so we can comparison shop again if we needed to. Anything else, Mr. Andre, Mr. Lovell? Good,
No, it's a shocking amount.
yeah.
I've seen lower on our outside BOCES audit.
Mhm,
It's a big organization.
mhm.
That is really high. But
So we'll pay attention.
RFP will help, yeah.
It
Any
was
other?
like 8,500 last year, Katie, that's what it
I
was.
think it was around that.
And that's something the finance committee can pay attention to as well as they're leading the way. Any other discussion on approval of the payment of the bill for the audit? If not, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed, abstentions? Then the next item is the treasurer's report. As would you like to do that?
Sure. So,
Are we gonna look at these documents? Or do you wanna look at the corrective actions?
so I think, we'll just look at the corrective action plan because we didn't necessarily
Yeah.
discuss in the finance.
Okay.
Maybe the financial stuff.
Right.
Um,
Are we gonna see that? There should be a download.
so Gwen, I, and Katie met to go over the corrective action plan so that we could get some information back to the auditors and also get a good opinion sooner than later, as far as how we want to address the oversight that they had noted. So basically what we'll be able to do is, I think Katie was doing each month was just any transactions, which there's not a lot of, but there is something, there are reports that as a finance committee, we can spend more time looking at and reconciling. So we listed out the reports that Katie would be providing that Gwen and I would look, or the finance committee would look at more thoroughly. And then when you guys, when the full board receives the packet, you'll get reports similarly to what Katie was giving, but we'll be able to highlight some things and know what we discussed in the finance committee each month. And then I think that that would help to bring, you know, any questions and just a better understanding of what we would expect you to hear. And then I think one of the bigger things we wanted to make sure we got a handle around was the pilot payments. I met with Tracy Ferrier and Peter from CETA and Maureen from CETA, and Tracy has reviewed and approved the pilot spreadsheet that Dan and Key had recommended that we have. they also have reviewed it, so we have a really good foundation now, and we're. And we can share that with the full board also. It puts it into a clear picture of what each of those contracts should look like and what we can expect and plan for. And basically, it's just, you know, the board, like the finance committee and the board supporting and really knowing what we're looking at. Hopefully, and then as we keep moving, because. I think that there's one pilot payment that we're still waiting to receive from one of the contractors.
It's on the way, they contacted
Oh,
me
great.
and asked for a new bill, so
Oh,
I
great.
sent that out.
And then the next thing we really will have to do is just in the fall, when the bills go out, by that time, we'll see how this goes, and then we know that we have Tracy and, you know, a couple other people we can reach out to, so that we just stay ahead of these things, so it doesn't hopefully happen again.
And a question, with that. Packet you're gonna give us or
The spreadsheet.
it's spreadsheet, yes. Does that include dates and times?
So
Or
it'll
a
include-
schedule, like
yeah.
a schedule, okay.
Yeah, so there are a lot of tabs in there.
Okay.
Tracy did go over it with me. But there's one page, I believe it looked like what, Elaine had provided, where it shows each contractor. Here's the amount, here's when they started, here's when they ended, and Tracy provided the specific end dates to it. And then the magical world of the big formula that kind of goes a little bit deeper into it, but at least it's all there and the way that she explained it and we can follow it. So. I felt like we had, somebody who was,
Had intimate knowledge of
Yes.
the inner workings.
she really did, so
Yeah.
it was really great sitting with Tracy because she had that historical knowledge.
Yeah.
So I had even a question about Bluefield Manor, because I think that was one of the first pilots I ever even had heard of.
Mhm.
So it was really interesting to see, like, every bit that she had remembered, so it's kind of. So then we'll just keep track of that, and, you know, the good thing is that there's only a couple times a year we look at that, and then hopefully we'll add a couple more to it. And we'll have a better understanding and know at least the timeline of it, and. I think that would really help, and then of course the annual, or at least with Danville and Key right now, or any auditor you have, that's an extra layer of. Review and
Mhm.
making sure that.
And just a correction on that, where it says the executive committee received, it should be the finance committee. My bad.
Oh, I'm sorry, that could have been my fault.
Listen, we're doing the best we can.
So
Not shrinking, don't worry about it.
one of the other things the auditors had recommended was adding a separate bank account so that. Any pilot payments that we would receive, it would go in there, and then we know that's an in and out account, and we know what it should be and how much it is. And that was recommended this year, but then also I saw it was noted on the
Yes.
prior year. So we talked to Katie about that to see how that worked, if that makes, and at the time, it sounded like you seemed like that was a good idea and that would be helpful.
It would, the only thing I have to say is, right now, the only person who can sign checks is Bob Gauthier.
Mhm.
So I don't know, I guess I need to sort of talk to him so he knows we're doing a second
Mhm.
account, but other than that,
Well, I mean, either way, I think wouldn't you just bring him the checks?
yeah, I
Anyway,
take the
so-
checks over, but I just want him to know he's gonna be signing for 2 different accounts,
Mhm.
cause I'll have to get him on the signature card and all that.
Oh, I see what you're saying, yeah, so.
So this is, and then the attachment that we sent with you is the Word document. We sent our responsible officials corrective action, so you're seeing in that very much similar thing for the purposes we did a fast food for the eyes kind of document to let you know that we then met as a finance committee. The other thing we talked about was possibly engaging Tracy in the fall at the time that the pilots have to go out, just so we have that additional layer of understanding and expertise at the table. in partnership with Katie at that point, so we make sure that we're just on top of things. So any questions, general reactions? Are you understanding? Tess, you did a really great job. You had a great meeting with this. I'm just wanting to know before I ask us to approve the corrective action plan, any questions, comments, concerns, anything going on in your head, your heart, or your gut that you're
I
concerned
just
about?
had a question about the signature card and opening the new bank account.
Mhm.
I'm not familiar with the person who you said is
He's
currently.
the city treasurer.
Okay, thank you. Should there be somebody else on the signature card? Is it risky to have just one person?
It seems to me that it is, but I think because this is a city authority thing, that's why he's the only one that can. Now, I don't know, because I've never seen the signature cards. I don't know if it's possible to put a second person on just in case he breaks his leg on the golf course or something.
This problem will occur then, and the steep jump.
Rob, is there any
Yeah,
general on that?
Historically, it's only been the city treasurer, and I thought there was something in the bylaws about that.
Yeah, I would have to look it up.
Yeah, I just know when I started, I was told he's the only person that can sign checks, so.
Yeah, I know that we operate differently than other boards, but other boards that I'm on, there's more than one person.
Yeah.
Sign a check.
Ordinarily, you'd have like 4 people on it or something, but,
Well, I wonder if
because it's a city authority or something.
I wonder if it's through the city's policies then, so Bob signs checks in the treasurer's office, whatever they're.
Rob, you can see if I picked that up.
I can see if you picked it up. Yeah, I don't have the bylaws right in front of me, but
So is that something you're saying we want to just explore and maybe have some
Sure.
resolution around it?
I mean, if it's not possible, then, you know, the answer.
Okay, you can, and Rob can help us within the bylaws, and you were saying, I just did a fast one for the eyes version of the bylaws for tonight, but I'm not sure I picked up that specific thing.
Oh, and. Yeah, audit too. So so this report that you printed out, so it does say Campbell is my last name and it's Crawford, but I did let Campbell and Keno when we forwarded it to them that it.
Yes, thank you, I don't know who I was thinking
So
about,
when
thank
it
you.
was, oh, that's fine.
We hyphenated women. Like, what should, you can't vote.
Well,
Thank you, sorry about that.
oh, no, that's fine.
We have something?
I do, I said, we don't hyphenated names, it's long.
Oh,
Yeah, but it seemed like there was another. Question on that. Corrective action,
From the auditors?
no, in response to. But it's not, coming forward, so it will have to stay.
And it can be that.
That's right, there we go.
We're building this bicycle and riding it at the same time. So any other questions just about the corrective action plan? Is the board feeling confident if we engage in these activities that it will get us in better alignment with what the auditors are inviting us to do and asking us to do? Yes?
Yes.
With that said, I'd like a motion to approve the correction action plan as per the documented items from the 2023 audit. Make a motion?
I'll move it.
Thank you, Dan. A second. Katie, any more discussion? Seeing none, all those in favor?
I,
Any opposed? Any abstention? I just have to ask. So the other piece of this is that during the audit process, we did have a lot of discussion about the pilot payment process and our desire to send out waiver letters to the, I think, is it the taxing districts?
Yeah.
Authorities.
About the interest.
Yes,
That's what I was.
we'll come back to that, yeah, okay. And so in that spirit, I connected with Rob. Tess and I did some research to find out who wrote that letter. So I connected with Rob and asked him if he would draft the letters and then bring forward the resolution, so that if we're still agreeing that that's what we want to do, we're positioned to do that. So Rob, could I turn the meeting over to you at this point?
Yes, so what you're seeing in this packet here are the resolutions that are all substantially the same to the various taxing jurisdictions, affected tax jurisdiction. And then there's a proposed letter to each of them, which is after the first resolution. Each resolution also has a release, a legal release, stating that there's no further liability. They're waiving all liability for these late penalties and interest. So just very simple resolution. It's the same thing that we gave to the school board last year. So, you know, very simple in each case. Like I said, all substantially similar, and it can either be addressed individually or can go to all three at the same time. So I don't know if anybody had any specific questions about any of that, or had a chance to review it, had any specific questions, but that's basically what I mean.
And so Rob, I think procedurally, I wanna understand, so if we adopt the resolution and pass it, then what happens? Who's responsible for actually deploying the letters to the jurisdiction?
So essentially what would happen is, if you want to move forward with this, a letter and a copy of the proposed resolution would go under your signature.
Okay.
Either to all three at the same time, you know, with the resolutions, or to each one individually with each resolution, making this request.
And do you know what past practice was?
Well, in the case of the school district, Lisa Green put it in last year, and helped sponsor it. You know, I think in this case, you know, you have two advocates for the school board this year, and you have advocates on the city council.
I know that Mayor Giantino works very closely with the chairperson exam family, and I do believe that, you know, he will present that as those to her. So I mean, that's what, you know, that's the intent. But yeah, but once it's all signed by the AIDA chair, we can move forward.
So my signature goes over the letter, the resolution is to be presented by the taxing jurisdiction to their body, is that what I'm
Correct.
saying? Okay,
Correct.
all right,
Do we have the amounts? Is that just a rolling number or?
that's when we got the updated stuff, do we know that?
They didn't give us the updated amounts.
Yeah, so we'd have to get those.
We are very much the mercy of the taxing jurisdictions, whatever those amounts are.
Right.
And you know, I mean, I'm sure there's them out there, but if they are gracious and merciful, they will understand. And you know, and I think, you know, that's something that we go through this tumultuous time where we're, you know, obviously going to be understanding on the other ends too. So, but yeah, so just hope that we do get the kind of grace that
So this isn't a good time for us to ask about waiving the interest on the property, the loan. That Elaine brought up again.
so.
We're gonna take those two things apart. Well, let's deal with this.
There you go.
Well, yeah, I mean, these,
I'm gonna let
let's
you
first
roll
things
out your
first,
city council.
let's first things first,
Yes,
let's
there
do
you
this.
go.
So first of all, I wanna just, before I ask for this motion, are we clear about what it is I'm gonna ask for a motion for, first of all? And then once we get a second, if there's more in your head, heart, or spirit, you can talk about it. Right?
Well, the only thing I would think is that maybe is there a time, like, you know, the words that we have, you know, like when you have a closing or something, if you have like a date that you're gonna have, that's gonna be an actual amount through a date, is that helpful?
Well, I'd say that you could pass the form of the letter and resolutions and just make it subject to the discretion of the chair to finalize the number.
Gotcha.
If all those payments are current, then those numbers aren't increasing, right? We're getting more interest on them for having not paid them, or isn't it just a
Well,
particular amount based on what we didn't pay?
so they didn't get paid until February. Yeah, so they didn't get paid until February, so there were additional penalties, that's what they were discussing. So
Right,
that
but
they
I mean,
didn't
is
get
there's-
that full amount, because it was for every month after, it would be a certain amount, and then. Yeah, no, then that would be, yeah, it was.
But I mean, is the numbers not a moving target anymore, right?
No,
It's a number.
it exists somewhere. We just don't know where it is.
Yeah, so we just only have the amount through December 31st that was calculated. We don't have what the January would have been.
But don't they have to be paid within 30 days of? Because most of them were paid the very last week of December. About half of the pilot people didn't send their checks in until late December, which would mean they were getting it in by the January 1st deadline that we had given them. But the interest would start accruing 30 days after they paid it, so late January.
So
We pay.
I understood it as when they did the presentation, they said that because the payment hadn't gone out yet, that there was an amount that was approved that they hadn't recorded. And then I think I thought that those payments didn't go out until February, so.
Yeah, my understanding was the same as yours, that the obligation of the business for the pilot, they got theirs in under the January 1st. But then we were responsible to get that money out within 30 days.
Right.
And if
So
that
that's
didn't
why
occur, that's why,
we would have started accruing for a lot of them later in January.
Correct.
There were a few that paid kind of right away, but there were quite a few that came in the last week or 2 weeks of December.
right.
So I
And
guess,
one that's still on the way.
so I just have one more clarifying question, then I'm gonna ask for the motion. So Rob, is it incumbent upon us to put in that amount, share the amount, or does the taxing jurisdiction decide what the amount will be in their own resolution? That's what I'm trying to figure out. Do we need to provide additional information?
We had it last year.
when
I
we
think
pass
that we
this?
would need to just so that we can say, we're telling you what it is and what we're at, so that they can't come back and say, oh, I didn't know it was that much.
Mhm.
Yeah,
Yes,
I think we wanna be forthcoming with what
we,
the.
we, we need to provide the amount. But I mean, Dan is correct, the number exists somewhere, it just needs to be calculated and written down.
I had a question about the letter, the cover letter. So, it says here, since Tracy Barrier resigned as executive director, that was a couple of years ago, right? Do you think it might be helpful to put the year? Because there may be people that ask, so you asked for this last year, why are you asking for it again? But it has been many years, right? At least 2 or 3.
Rob, what's your thought about that?
Yeah, that, I'm perfectly happy to add that. I just couldn't, remember off the top of my head
No,
what year that was.
we were, the board,
Do I need to ask for a motion before we?
the board did not, pay on time last year. And that was a discovery from, the previous audit.
So this is the second time.
Just for the school.
Which is for the
district.
school.
The first one was just the school district.
Okay.
Correct.
This one is all three taxing authorities.
So let me do this. So Rob's saying that what we need to have a motion for is to approve the use of the form. Is that what I'm hearing you say? So can I get that motion?
Yes, I'll make that.
Okay, I got first and second, Terry and Dan. Now we're starting to go down the discussion path, so I want us to be meticulous and clear. So poor Rob isn't involved, like, what did they say? So one of the things that we're wondering, that I'm hearing, is that we want, because it has Tracy's name in it, we would want to consider adding the year to that, so we would need to provide that for Rob. What else?
So I can look at, what was it, 2022?
It feels like that's when, I feel like Tracy,
Tracy wasn't here then.
maybe
It was
2020,
Taylor.
Yeah, there were
Taylor
this
was
here,
here.
Tracy and.
and the
So was it
executive
20
director,
Danielle.
Danielle.
That's right, there's a Danielle,
And then
there's the Danielle, right?
Yeah, well, technically did, they've all been.
And then there
All
was,
right, so that's one
Michael.
thing, we wanna make sure we're being clear about who and the date. Am I hearing that?
Well, yeah, I think the Tracy, ever since, and then again, like, they were having, there was a Tracy did resign, but whatever year that was 2021 or 2022. There's either been an interim, or if there was an executive director, it's very temporary. But we don't really go into that detail, but like, the instability just basically did start when, started when Tracy resigned.
Right.
I mean, if it's that the school board is the second year and the other two entities is the first year, maybe then the school board gets its own letter. With the year, I don't know.
Well, yeah, I mean, I think putting the year is fine, I don't think that.
Was there anything else about the letter? So Rob, is it? Okay, a minute. All right, so in my cover letter, is that where the amount would go, or do we put that in a draft resolution?
There's a blank space for it in each resolution.
In the resolution,
Yeah.
we would fill that number in
Yeah,
prior to that.
Mhm.
And then this gets sent to the leader of the jurisdiction.
Mhm.
Forgot to mention it through finance. Okay, we'll get that through. All right, so is everybody do we have shared understanding about what's going on here? Yes? Any other discussion as it relates to what we're looking for a motion to do is to approve the use of these forms with the suggested revisions or additions?
I think that's moved and seconded already, we just need to vote.
Okay, I just will check for more discussion. Thank you, James, my feedback. Whether he likes it or not.
I think I said clerk of the district, you probably have a secretary instead of a clerk.
Anything else? I'm
I
gonna call.
don't think anybody's too worried.
Don't apologize.
So in the last sentence, we asked for, however, AIDA asked for your support through this transitional period and for CEDA's mission. Like, should we be asking for them to support CEDA's mission because we contract with CEDA, or should that be AIDA's mission?
I'm thinking at this point, it should be AIDA's mission.
Cause I don't know if we would speak for,
Okay.
Yeah, I just think there's so much moving that if we're asking them just to continue to support our mission, that would probably be it.
So just at the end of the, each letter will change C to AIDA.
Yeah, to AIDA, to our mission, yeah.
So with that, and do you have a chance of just with the recommended changes, is that what we're?
I think that might be just. That's fair. We good with that? So would you be willing to just amend your motions to add with the recommendation?
Yep.
We good? You good, Rob? No, great looking for? All right, all those in favor?
Aye.
Any opposition? Any abstentions? Thank you much. Chaz, I'm gonna ask you, you and I together, in case you can stay on top of this, and then Rob can guide us into how we need to get them to where they need to be. Sound okay?
I think we were.
Yeah.
Here.
I don't trust myself with certain things. I'll always be upfront, I don't trust myself with saying on top of that. Just before we move to the next item, I just wanna thank all of you for helping us find our way about our audit report was a lot to ingest and to take in. Katie, I wanna thank you for hanging in here. Tess has shown a good thing, and we are committed to making sure that we are in alignment with those corrective actions. And I want us to increasingly be known for that AIDA that has it together, right? And we have the opportunity to engage whatever additional technical assistance and support, and I always believe that if it helps us do better, to have some support, we will do better that way. Okay, thank you, lady, for leading the way. Got you and Dan ready to go over? So the next item on the agenda is, and I sent this in my cover email, that we've been flowing through sort of onboarding ourselves and together as board colleagues under my leadership. So we spent our first meeting with Jenny Haynes, where she talked to us about what AIDA is. Last month, she talked about how AIDA does its work, the different things that I invited you all to look at the Harris Beach Economic Development PDF and read pages 1 through 17. That gets us right to where we are. It's very interesting reading and written in regular language. And so today we need to talk about then how we as a board act on the work that we need to do. So one of the things that I did is I just took a look at the bylaws and just extrapolated the high bullet points to help us understand. So so tonight, what I'd like to do would be just to organize the board. And there's some positions we need to fill. And again, these are living documents. So for tonight, I just want us to take a look at them. If you look at the first page that has the org chart on it, it says that our board of directors consists of 9 members. I'm the board chair. Tess, did I get your name right this time? Because it poured out properly.
Yeah. So my name really isn't hyphenated, but,
Okay. I'll get it
so
together.
it's just proper, but
Okay.
I think most people probably.
Well, this is just for our internal use, but
Yes,
as a hyphenated woman, I want to respect. Send me a love note with how you want me to type it, right?
Sometimes I miss.
As of right now, we don't have an executive director because contractually we've contracted that service through CEDA. As we know, CEDA's in flux right now. At this point, the board agreed to maintain its contractual relationship with CEDA through April 30th. We know that they commissioned a study. There'll be some other information coming about that by the end of the month. We'll know what that is going to look like, right? So for right now, through April 30th, our contractual relationship maintains with CEDA. Previously, we had as acting secretary, when I looked on the criteria, it had you.
Yes.
And then Tessa, whose name I will get right before I turn 70, I got 2 years to figure that out. We'll figure that out. And the position of assistant treasurer that I hadn't seen had been filled before, but we can think about that. So I just want you more from an organization point of view. This is the configuration of this school. If you look at the next page, I listed who we are as board members. I probably killed your name again, Tess.
You're fine.
And I put in our terms. I gotta figure out, Terry, why yours is only through 2024. You'll note that the rest of us, because you and the mayor were probably at that time.
Yes.
Running,
Yeah, so,
okay.
yeah, I think I'm 2026
Okay.
and Jimmy might be, let's see.
So I picked those up, right, but again, just to see, I will make sure that we have a roster that is clarifying for all of us what the terms are. Katie checked on this for me initially, so that just lets you know all of who we are. I put a special note that we have 1 or 2 openings on the AIDA board, and those would be appointed by the city council. Okay? Give me the, Miss Karen just listened.
We've got a full board now.
Okay.
Does this board member information appear anywhere else?
Well, this was on our website, and we all know that our website needs to be
Okay.
updated. So again, I just
Came
pulled,
from the web.
yeah, I just pulled from what was available at the time. Okay,
I don't see Karen.
Yeah.
that's what I mean, because if I pulled it from the board, she goes,
Oh,
okay. So you gotta add that. So we have been talking about, there are a number of things, even Jenny said, that we need to update, even with some input. So there's different articles. I am gonna invite you to go back and take a look at the whole thing. I just thought I'd extrapolate some for you. So Article 1 just really speaks to the authority of AIDA. A lot of this is what Jenny talked to us about, what we do, who we are, right? So just kind of all checks and drafts, there are the orders of the will should be signed on behalf of AIDA by the chairperson or other officer as designated by a resolution of the board. That might be how Mr. Gothier. Okay. Then again, just from the bylaws of the current year, this is the configuration. Let me see that last thing. Don't any of y'all resign, or in my till the wheels fall. Let me know if I'm your last member, because you aren't leaving because of me. We're doing this together, okay? Article 3 focuses on the meetings. And again, I like to give you things to chew on and then we can talk about them again, so to take your time.
And I'm sorry, in all my many years, I've never sat at an annual meeting.
It might be interesting for us to consider doing one, right? There could be some interesting opportunity for us to showcase some things, showcase some of the people we help. I don't recall that in my time being. It does show that all of our meetings are held in compliance with
Wow.
open meeting laws, we need to be mindful of that. All right, if we look at Article 4, it still focuses on the standing committees. And if you refer to page 4 in our actual bylaws, it speaks specifically to the charge of each committee. So I would like you to take a look at that. For those of you who have been here longer than whoever McLeod, was there a separate audit committee? Or was it the function of the finance committee to serve in it?
I never remember an audit committee.
Where's that in the board? Literally all on the audit committee.
We are. So I just want to let you know that in our bylaws, it says that can be a standing committee.
Yeah.
Right, and does the IDA policies, practices, rules require us to have an audit?
Yeah,
committee?
there's supposed to be an audit committee. It was that not, I thought that was chartered.
When I was looking at the bylaws, I can't remember what the language was. I don't know if you were carrying on them on your phone.
Yeah, I am.
Okay, why don't you take a look at that? Because that means we need to do one of those.
I think, from what I remember, there were two, we did have two committees, there was one finance, one audit committee. And that, like Roger, the former comptroller, was on the audit committee. And I do believe that, Brandon Graves was on the finance, so there was, I don't know who else served with them, like Jim might have been on all of them.
Right.
I was on the governance committee, I think at one point I was on the finance committee,
Mhm.
but I felt more comfortable being on the governance committee.
So that we need to address. Okay, I'm just telling you what we're supposed to be doing, then we'll figure out who.
And I'll stay on the governance committee.
Thank you, Ken, sir, I know, I appreciate that, right?
Yeah, if the audit committee is not being done, it needs to come back.
Okay,
Yeah.
we can make sure that we do that.
And again, I think a lot of this has to do with transition.
Mhm.
It's not, again, not only, there's been many things happening all at once, so.
Yeah.
So I think we'll pick right up.
We will, all nine of us will figure this out. We have the finance committee and Tess is the chair of that. The governance committee is one of our standing committees. I connected with Councilor Cuddy. He agreed to stay with that. Then we can have other standing committees and or special committees as I looked through the bylaws. So I have a proposition for the board's consideration. Right now, I just kind of want us to be familiar with what we do, give you all some time, those of you that haven't asked, to kind of figure out where you might like to sit. I would prefer not to. I'll wait, you dance like you give me one more. Dan said, you understand, I'm trying to hire you. Listen, friend, I'm gonna try to be kind to you. Okay.
And
Go ahead, Bob.
so Karen and I were sidebarring, the treasurer of the city does have to keep the account as agent for the authority, so reading that in with the bylaws, that means that the treasurer of the city is the agent for the treasurer of the authority.
So does that mean we don't have to have two signatures? I think that was the question.
Yes.
And do we need to amend the bylaws that we have that say that the chairman can sign?
Say that the chairman can sign.
Not as yeah, we were there, I think it was on page 6 or article 6. Close.
It just says that they'd be signed by the chair of AIDA or another officer designated by resolution. So they,
Right, but the chair's not allowed to.
this is another person designated by the board.
But that says that the way that reads to me is that the chairman can or designate somebody else, whereas the actual statute says that it's the treasurer,
The city's treasurer.
the city treasurer is the one that disperses money. And it's probably a fail-safe so that, you know,
I think you're adding specificity where none exists.
well.
It says in here,
Statute, that was amended in 2018. The statute was in 1969.
So that is something, Rob, if you can take a look
Yeah.
at us.
I'll-
And
I'll-
cross-reference
I'll
our
get it, yeah.
bylaws with what the statute is to make sure we're in compliance. So know that I'm giving you this as a one play.
Yeah.
Right, just to heighten our collective awareness that we have some specific responsibilities and have this caveat. As you go back, if you decide to go back and look through, and I would encourage you to do it, the entire bylaw document, it's on our website,
Mhm.
right? Okay.
Yeah.
So, but I just kind of wanted to pull some stuff, so we had a fast food for the eyes kind of way to take a look at what we are required to do, okay? So with regard to the opportunity to propose other standing committees or a special committee, one of our strategic priorities is to be the ones that promote to other companies that promote the idea that Auburn is a great place to conduct business. So one of the things I want to offer for our consideration is the creation of a committee that, in my mind, I was thinking we would call it a marketing, branding, and positioning committee. High level, I'm thinking the charge would be that this would be the committee that looks at and monitors in partnership with the whomever is going to be actually be the webmaster, what's on the website, making sure that they're having comment about its occurrence, the conversations we had about to sponsor, not to sponsor, to advertise, not to advertise, so all of that kind of stuff. The positioning piece of this, I'm thinking, but this could be a committee that monitors what's going on in the community in the region and thinking about places we either need to be or events we might want to host where we're demonstrating in our word action indeed why this is a great place to be. So I'll give you an example. There's economic development stuff going on over the region all the time. They have the Red Sea meeting, there's all these other meetings that go on. This committee could say to us, we propose that somebody from the AIDA board attend this event. This is why, and when they're there, this is what we want you to talk about, right? So that we're doing this with strategic intent. The mayor said to me too, when I was meeting with him, that this would be doing that kind of activity is something he'd like to see AIDA do more of. Another example of something I was thinking this committee could do when we're ready would be to connect with the people that we've provided pilots or assistance to. And either engage them, have them come meet with us to talk about how receiving that kind of support has helped them, facilitate the growth of their business, give them an opportunity to give us feedback. So those folks that are particularly in what I would call our portfolio, but also find ways for us to stay connected to the business community. I'm completely freestyling, simply to exemplify the kinds of things I think having a committee like that would do. So instead of Jenny's saying, something was on the website, it doesn't seem up to date. We have a group of people that are ready to be monitoring that on our behalf all the time. I'm offering that for consideration. Our next meeting, I'll have a better sense of who wants to play where. And I did reach out to Katie to see if we did create something like that, would she be willing to chair that group? And she indicated that she would be. Okay, so just think about that. I don't think that would be a bad thing. Counselor, what do you think about it?
I think it's great. I mean, it's kind of like a more solidified version of the ad hoc committee
Right.
that we have.
Yeah,
with
to build the website.
So that's perfect. That sounds
Yeah.
good.
So I'm saying the charge would be, now that the website's created, monitoring it, right? To also making sure when we decide that it's important for us to market AIDA, that we're clear about that. Is that advertising? If something comes up like to sponsor the ice sculpture or not, this committee would bring those kinds of recommendations to us with the rationale for why it's important for AIDA to physically be or have a presence in that space. And I think in our changing environment here that it's important for us to establish ourselves, reestablish ourselves, hit a reset button. So that would be the only other committee that I might recommend. Does anybody think we need anything else?
So would that committee be addressing the, our mission to get to more pilots or to more groups, like would that be part of that a different?
Well, what I'm thinking is that that could be the committee that positions us to attract those companies that might want to pilot from us, but the technical work of that has typically been done by the CETA staff. Am I making sense? Did I make that distinction for you? So, food for thought. Now, you know, I'm just home thinking about stuff. So, gathered whenever we come up, because I have a beautiful mind.
I missed a word, you said the marketing, branding and
Positioning.
position.
Right. So when I think of marketing, I'm thinking of that ongoing activity that we use to say, hey, we're here, this is our mission. When I'm thinking about the branding, it's like making sure that our words and actions match in our practices. And when I'm thinking about positioning, I'm thinking about where are those places we need to be, or who are the people we want to know about AIDA? And that we're doing that with strategic intent. Does that make sense? And so part of the committee's role would be to sort of scan the environment, what's going on, saying when, might be good for you to go, talk, we have the mayor, the city councilor here, we can connect with Aileen. And also, I think also try one of the things, I think one of the entities we need to position ourselves with is the county IDA. Right? We've been living in a parallel universes, but I think with so much opportunity coming our way, we could host a conversation with the county IDA. And I know they're reorganizing. So I think of those things as connected, but they're very specific activities. I think the biggest thing for me after having a conversation with the mayor and Jenny, as I was like, tell me what you want me to do, is that I think we should do this with strategic intent, right? So we know what our priorities are. So whenever we're acting in any of those spaces and places, we're doing it because we know in doing it, it's gonna let us achieve those 3 or 4 outcomes that we say we want to achieve. Make sense? So Bill, as I'm looking at you, I'm thinking, how does AIDA need to position itself with the labor unions? Maybe yes, maybe not, but if we have that thing in our application that says a percentage of the jobs that people who get pilot get needs to be local workers, right? There's all those kinds of places. Ultimately, I want AIDA to be known for being a high trusted community partner, vital community partner, as it relates to the economic development activity in the county. And we gotta behave our way into being that. So that committee would be the ones that sort of designs a strategy and a plan for us to do that. And then I think when I look at that, so these are the committees per the current bylaws. Then here are the officers that they're currently identified in our plan. Again, I just pulled some special notes and then I'll ask Rob to take one more look at feeling and maybe ask Karen, who's meticulous about these things, to do that as well. But I was appointed the chairperson. These are the terms as they're currently identified. Vice chairperson is Bill. Bill, I'm sorry, I got your name wrong again. I was late at night doing this.
That's very common. I always get an A on the end.
Right? And that woman named Tess, whose name I don't know. Tess is the chair for one term. The secretary, this can be a non-board person, which I found interesting. Katie, you serve in that capacity for us. Is that true, Katie? Is that one of your
I
roles?
don't know, I was told I had so many titles when I started here, I don't know what those would be.
Yeah.
Well, I think that's something we can just need to take into consideration. Thank you for doing it in the meantime. And an assistant secretary, if we want that. We also saw the opportunity for assistant treasurer. These are 1-year terms, and I find it interesting that they can be non-board people. Then I just talked a little bit about the vacancies. Remember, I was up late doing this, so read your bylaws, people.
So I think I'm officially the secretary, but,
Yeah.
Katie is the executes does the part.
You don't want that
You don't
job.
want it.
No.
Mr. Cuddy
So
and Karen.
Katie's doing a great job.
All right,
Traditionally, we've had a board person be the secretary and a CETA person be the assistant.
well, that's what we'll know. I just want to let you know what we are called to do. And then it talks about an executive director, right? Article 6. focuses on an executive director. And talks about how we engage that person. And gives high level oversight of what their relationship is to our IDA. Until April 30th, right, up until then, our contractual relationship with CETA has had CETA's executive director be the executive director of our IDA. We're there? In December of last year, the county IDA decided they did not want to contract with CETA to fulfill this particular position, and they are now in a contractual relationship with Michael Miller for 9 months. CETA's former executive director is now the executive director of the county's IDA.
That's interesting.
Mhm.
It's very interesting.
Which leaves us still without an executive director, and something that we will have to take into consideration once we find out what's going on the other side of CETA's assessment. We are required to have this person, and I think it's going to be, we're gonna really need to think about that as this sand is shifting in the economic environment around CETA as an organization. So through April 30th, we are in a contractual relationship. There are options. We could engage, I'm hearing this, if Rob would agree, one of the things that was said to me is that we could engage MRB, the firm that Tracy Verrier works for, in a limited capacity to provide the services that an executive director could provide for us. I'm mostly concerned about making sure that our whole pilot situation continues to stay on top of it, since we don't know. But I just want you to be aware that A, we're required to have one, and B, this is what high level that human is being engaged to do. So we just need to think about that, and then Rob, as we approach April 30th, well, we just need to see what's happening on the landscape right now. There's stuff moving around, okay?
May I ask a question?
Sure, of course you can.
So, I mean, April 30th is in a week or so.
Yeah,
So,
that part.
so we're waiting for reports or studies or things that are coming also April 30th?
So I think that those reports will probably be presented before April 30th with some decisions made, based on what I'm understanding. So we don't have any control right now over what's happening at
Okay.
CETA. What I am saying is the county opted to hire their own executive director to manage all of that. The CETA Board of Directors, of which I'm an ex officio member, commissioned a study to evaluate whether or not, I'm using one speak, CETA's business model is still the right way for us to conduct economic development in the county at this time. There's some common themes. People believe in a one-stop shop. This report will provide that board of directors with some information and a set of recommendations. So at the point that this report is shared, we will have to sort of pay attention to what CETA as an entity decides to do to help us decide what we need to do in terms of filling the executive director's position.
Okay, that
Okay.
makes sense. So there's nothing that we need to worry about from April 30th to the next board meeting?
I don't think so.
We're in kind of like a very passive. We're waiting for things to settle.
But legally, if we're required. We're required to have an executive director, and I think that our last resolutions is we engage CETA through April 30th. Do we have it? Do we have any?
Are we out of compliance?
Right. If we
Well,
don't have,
Rob would offer for consideration that we were out of compliance at the point that CETA didn't have an executive director.
right, right.
Right? So
That was kind of my point
Okay,
with
so
when
it's not
CETA,
new.
that was kind of
This-
my point when CETA
They
representatives
were in-
were at the meeting.
Breach of contract when they didn't provide us with an
Yeah,
executive
so
director.
because they're shifting sands and we need to figure out what CETA is going to do itself to help us discern, is this a contractual relationship we want to get in? Or do we want to put ourselves in the position of hiring our own executive director? There's a lot of players at the table, okay? There's the city, there's the county, there's our board, there's these boards. So I feel like something will evolve, but in the end, we have obligations and are legally required to have that position filled. You thinking about something down in Mr. Level? Mr.
Yeah,
Like,
no.
I'm doing another search.
This is what we've been talking about. I mean, this
Yeah.
is 6 months. We
Right.
haven't had an executive
Exactly.
director at this
Right.
point. That's a problem.
Yeah,
as far as
it's
I'm
a problem
concerned.
for us. That's
It's
why
CETA and it's a-
it's not our best interest.
So as we go through, and I gotta go,
That's
but
okay.
as we're, as to what Katie's talking about, do we need a resolution here to maintain the relationship with CETA until our next meeting? Because we don't have one after April 30th, no relationship with them.
I don't,
I think if we give ourselves another week or so, we'll know more about the situation.
yeah, but to Dan's point, he's wants to do something
Got
preemptively
it, I see.
to like anticipate anything. I mean, I defer to Rob to see if that's necessary.
What do we need to do?
My suggestion would be if you expect to get the
Mhm.
report in before the expiry of the extension, then you could do a special meeting quick
To figure out what we would do.
to figure out what you're gonna do in the next meeting.
I think we can assemble, given the sense that, given the urgency of the possibility of that. And I do think that, you know. This is a new thing to consider like an outside,
Mhm.
for lack of a better term, independent contractor.
Mhm.
That is more kind of private based rather than a public
Mhm.
partnership with, you know, quasi governmental. But the plus with that being mentioned is that the MRB
Mhm.
does employ the person that kept this place together. It may be a good interim situation. That's just my thoughts.
And you know, if we're really honest about it, all of the stuff around CETA is like a political hot potato, right? And so some of it has to be.
Yeah.
And this is really, the big part is I just wanted to go over this, so we do, but Rob, if we can just keep you apprised of kind of how things are flowing, and then you can let us what we know what we need to do, and if we need to call a special meeting, then we'll follow the bylaws.
I mean, you can call a special meeting on short notice.
Okay.
I don't think you're gonna solve this at this meeting.
No, we're not, but I want to let you know that we are required to have that
I
position.
have one other
Yeah.
question.
Yes, please.
Does it matter that MRV is not located within the county?
No,
Okay.
because the
They'll
business
still be
relates.
able to attend all at AIDA meetings?
If we engage them in that capacity, that would be something we have to build into our contract with them, I would imagine.
I mean, they would have to.
Yeah.
That's part of
They have
it.
to.
I mean,
Part of the engagement.
the thing that might get sticky is, theoretically, you might have to put out for a
Yeah.
RFP on it.
Yeah.
Mhm.
You know, then again, it's a specialized area of expertise, you know, you could do a negotiated procurement for it. Potentially.
And I'm only using that name as to exemplify that there is a firm in the area that does this kind of thing. And remember, I don't think it's the long-term solution for us.
No.
Because we need to fill this position. I think what everybody's kind of waiting to see, because CETA was the one-stop model. And their executive director was our executive director, is what's gonna happen with CETA as an entity.
And
So I think we'll have a sense of that over the next couple of weeks, and then we can just keep Rob apprised and do what we need to do. They're all sitting in the limbo with us.
Yeah.
And Katie already is an independent contractor with
Yeah.
the county IDA.
Well, not anymore.
Oh, you're not.
I resigned.
I might take you out for a lesson. But so, all right.
Collaboration.
Okay, but I wanna let you know that there's these moving models, right? And I've been sort of paying attention to what's going on around us. The thing that I'm saying to us in terms of how we need to operate in order to be in compliance and to conduct the business of this is why I'm exposing you to these bylaws in this way. With this said, I'm inviting you now, if you want to go back into the document, because I'm telling you special note, because I wasn't typing all that other stuff, right? But it's important because one of the things that is really resonating with me from Elaine was that it is our responsibility and obligation to understand as a board all the aspects of the business that we're in. And this is what we need to do, which is why in our meeting, she said, the board is responsible, right? Because we weren't aware, not know. And so I want to make sure that we're in relationship with these bylaws we have Rob here to make sure,
Yeah.
and his assistant attorney Karen.
Yeah.
Help us. Karen is that one. That person I hire into my life because I tend to be up here most of the time. So I think we have all the expertise we need around us. But remember, my whole thing right now is just onboarding us, creating shared understanding of the expectations and our bylaws. Lay out those expectations. Rob, did you have something to add?
Oh, no, I was
Okay.
just, you had, sections, maybe you haven't gotten to it.
Articles, the rest of the articles are about Accountability Act, what it requires us to do. And again, I just bulleted out stuff knowing that my friend Rob would be around, which is why I'm asking you to go back in and read them, okay?
For Article 6, I just have a question
Yes.
because. So I guess kind of going back again to what Katie was bringing up.
And also I need to learn how to spell 60. Good.
Oh, it looked like this one. So. So right now, in my head, that's all I'm aware of is that. That's a possibility we stay with CETA and then what their survey comes with, or. We don't, and then. What are we allowed to do and then, like, I mean, is there like somebody or something that it, I guess like if we're not in compliance even for a day and we have a moment now to stop and think of what that next step is, do we need to do that now since we're not gonna have another?
Well, I guess
Or
what
we're just gonna wait to have a special board meeting?
we're gonna, I think that's what the recommendation
And
is,
how
right?
many people would we need to
We
have
would
there because?
Quorum, just quorum, so 5.
Yeah.
I'm just trying to, because
Yeah.
I'm gonna be in Florida
Right.
and I don't know when you're gonna have the special meeting.
Yeah.
but- So I just,
Well,
I didn't know that when I looked at the other time.
Will you be back before April 30th?
Yeah, so I'll be back on the 29th.
Well, I promise I will hold a special meeting until after that. I will not let the ceiling fall. Go get your tan, girlfriend.
I mean, if you're out of compliance for a day or two, I mean, there's not really gonna be.
So it's not like,
I mean, we're out of compliance now.
like,
Well, yes, I mean, well, you have sort of a nebulous
Scenario.
entity. that-
Memorandum of understanding or.
You have a sort of
Hey.
nebulous entity, you don't have a particular person. that you're going to
But the entity has, to the best of its ability, been providing this.
It has been providing executive director type services.
My thing is that I think it's imperative that we be in compliance, so the what isn't the question, it's gonna be about the how and when. And that's kind of away from us, because CETA has been the entity that's provided that for us and their inputs. With that said, we have to look out for our best interest legally and in every way. So I think if we can just let some things unfold, we'll have a better sense before I call a special meeting. And I can maybe be in connection with Rob and explore some options for us to consider by the time we have a special.
So, I mean, and thank you for both, saying that you will be out of town for a certain time. Should we at least put a pencil on a date where everyone will be back in town, which I think, what's the date that you said?
I'm back on Friday, the 26th in the morning, you said the 29th, right, Monday?
Yeah.
So what if we looked at that
5 at,
first week in May?
like,
The 30th?
so is
The
that
30th,
okay to go?
Yeah, I
So
think
I'll-
by the 3rd, I think, so we're
I know
not,
that Dan and I have a board meeting at
Sensitive.
6 o'clock that day, but I mean, we could do like 5 o'clock. and-
yeah, we can do it earlier, you know, even if we have to get here at 4:30.
Yeah,
Oh, I could do something. I could do something in the, like around 4:30 or something.
4:30, yeah,
Can everybody just pencil that in case?
4:30, April 30th.
Yeah, 4:30 on April 30th, and we'll notify Dan and, is Dan the only one who's not here? And Stephanie.
Jen.
5 p.m.,
4:30
4:30.
p.m.
You want me
April
to
30th.
book the room, so we.
Yeah,
have
would
it
you
just
do
in
that?
case.
And also, if you don't mind just sending out that we're gonna pencil at this as a meeting for thanks, Katie.
Yeah,
Are we paying CETA currently for an executive director?
yes,
Mhm.
Okay.
but I mean, again, it's like,
what did we, do we get a monthly? That's-
Oh,
it's a quarterly, yeah.
Oh, okay, so that's,
Although we didn't,
well, so March.
We didn't pay them at the end of March, but maybe we still have to look at the 430 of the contract. and-
4:30, 4:30. 4:30.
Okay.
4:30. Sounds good.
All right, thank you, Terry, because I do think we just need to be positioned and prepared to have a discussion. The other resource we have available to us is back in the heyday. Bill might remember this, is that Jenny Haynes served as the executive director of
Yes.
CEDA, AIDA, because AIDA was under the county's city's umbrella.
Yeah.
Right? And so, like I said, there's scenarios that we need to consider, but until the person, entity we contract with figures out what they're going to do. But because we want to be in compliance, I would agree that having this special meeting, 4:30 at 4:30 will be beneficial to us. And in the meantime, as this starts to unfold, I can start to explore what some options would be.
Options are, yeah.
Yeah, and then speaking with the mayor, who on behalf and speaking with the city
Yes.
council, there
Yeah.
might be some things that we can do with the city
Yes.
as well.
Like a temporary.
Yeah,
thing.
yeah.
But again, like again, you brought up a couple of options,
Right.
like a independent contractor, going back to the city, and again, what we don't wanna
The city
do is
would
pay
be willing
first
to do
to
it for a period of
come
time.
along, yeah, so.
And at some point, it's gonna require us to take a look at our budget, I think as well, too, to make sure that we have enough money to cover whatever it is we would do. Just know that it's like hanging ten on the surf. The other acts that I just highlighted, again, please go back, I just wanted to pull them out for your attention. Would be, what the Public Authorities Accountability Act calls us to do. Article 8 is indemnification. And I think that was it. Okay, so what I'd like to do is that I'd like to invite each of you with this knowledge in front of you to think about the committees you'd like to work on. I already have asked Karen if she would be willing to join us on the finance committee. I will attend your committee meetings as needed or requested. Bill, Andre, and I will be tag team, and we're the odd couple. When I'm not here, you can run the meeting. And Bill, also, if you'd like to serve on another committee, I think that that's fine. I want to make sure, and we have to think about the audit committee. So, and the configuration of that, right? So we just need to think about that as well.
So I think what Dan was about to bring up is
Right.
for the school board,
Right.
everyone's the odd.
I see
So,
what you're saying. Mhm.
like it was a meeting that we had, like we could say, okay, we're gonna go into. Or I don't know exactly how Robert's rules go, so we could you hold the audit committee 15 minutes before the
Mhm.
meeting and then. We do the and then you approve it
Right.
there.
To be in compliance with our bylaws, the board, votes for the vice chairperson.
Mhm.
So can I make a motion to have Bill Andre as our vice chairman?
So. You're still interested? So
Yeah.
the word.
You accept?
Yeah, I
You
accept.
accept, okay.
Great, did I get a second for that motion? Thank you, Karen. All those, any more discussion about our friends? Well, I don't know. I don't know about that.
We got a quorum, we're
Yeah.
good.
All those in favor?
Aye.
And any abstentions, any no's? Thank you, Bill, I appreciate it. I think we'll be a great team. And so, the last thing that I sent you is Karen was visiting AIDA board meetings and then in January joined us on the board. And I'm really appreciative that she did this. So the last page in your packet is I just call it proposed AIDA to-do list summary. Karen had been keeping track as a visitor on a number of items that were suggested during the AIDA board meeting she attended, that there is no evidence in our minutes that we specifically acted on, right? So as of right now, I think some of these may have been addressed. Others of them, though, were things we need to be mindful of and roll up into our agenda. Some of this stuff might be able to be handled through committees. That kind of thing, but we need to keep this list in front of us, okay? And I think my takeaway was it's so easy in a meeting to talk about a whole bunch of stuff and forget that you said it. So I think that one of the things we really want to do is make sure that we bring things to closure. Or agree to table, right? But this is a list of things that are on the list. Katie, if you know of any of these things that have been handles, you can let me know, we can reduce the to-do list, but this is a running list. And the goal is that we not lose sight of things, even if it's things like, we wanna know more about, that's what some of this is, or what's the status of. It's really important for us to bring things to closure. Anything else to come before us?
Well, the only thing with that, reviews that we need to put out in RFP for our auditors,
Mhm.
I know when we met at Melody.
Right.
We talked about that,
Mhm.
and I think Katie thought that it might be March. This year, it might be this year, but I don't know if that's this year.
We
or
want to get it
not.
out now because we want to have them in place by the end of the year. If
So
we're
do we,
changing,
is
so.
it correct that the RFP is due this year? I don't know if that's.
I haven't seen anything that says that, but I think it's usually done every 3 years and I'm pretty sure that Buffington and Poland has done several audits.
Right, they have.
So I think.
It's every 3 years.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a way
I
to
think
track
we're
that,
way
Katie?
past that.
Yeah, so we should
Yeah.
definitely do it.
I can find out
Okay.
how many they've done, but I know there's a drawer full of Buffington and Poland audits.
Yeah.
So.
Is there a draft of the RFP that was used by AIDA, or did CETA put it out to bid, or did AIDA?
I think AIDA should have, well, maybe, but I think a separate one should have gone out on behalf of all 3 of the
Got it.
entities, I would think. So
Okay.
I will see if I can find it. Maybe the whole world's on our computers,
Yeah.
so I'll see if that's one of the things
I
there.
can look back to on the
I also,
session notes.
I also think, not to complicate things, I also think there was this kind of like, CCIDA and AIDA, to like
Mhm.
go in together as their RFP, so that might help you.
Yes, there was a joint RFP, I wanna say was put out.
I know that they did both of the
It
audits.
might have been in
for
2021, so then 2022, 2023. Maybe it's 21, 22, 23.
Well, if it went
We
out
just
to
did
21,
23.
yeah.
Yeah, so,
So then it should be due.
yeah.
Okay, So
it
Katie, you
should
can
be
give
due
us
this year.
some
From
information,
the
maybe
track.
feed it out to us.
Yeah.
through
Okay.
The finance committee. That would be a great way they can bring forward a communication for us. Any updates, anything like that, anybody, we need to know that's going on the economic development landscape, that's what I wanna use board updates for. Anything going on in the landscape that will help us act on our priorities.
Well, I'm interested in the EDC dues, when we were up to date on payments. for
I'll look and
those.
see,
Yeah,
that's something I
because
think
that might
check
make a
on.
difference as to how much the cost to
Right.
attend
Right, events are.
things are.
Mhm.
And then I'd be interested in going to Cooperstown in May.
Yeah, I was
That's,
thinking about that.
possibility,
Mhm.
so. We can maybe look at them at our April special meeting.
Yeah.
We need permission from the board.
Yeah, we'll know by then.
I'm all about professional
I
development.
think, Rob, what would really be helpful to us too, because really the sand is shifting here all the time. I think the biggest thing for us is for you to help us make sure that we're in compliance. And right now, the biggest thing that's standing out for me is that we're required to have an executive director. But also I noticed, you and Karen were taking a look at the bylaws and that kind of thing, so. You have a free moment, if you wanna pull them up and take a look at them as well.
Yeah,
That would be.
yeah, the only thing that is giving me pause is that account thing, but also the statute is old and sort of odd and doesn't actually say. Anything about checks, it only says the things about deposits,
Mhm.
which theoretically could integrate together, so I gotta go back and look at that
Yeah.
section.
I know Jim signs checks,
Yeah, I know he did too, so,
I mean, that's. I mean, yeah, so so look at the bylaws.
yeah,
Well, no, the bylaws have been, our bylaws were revised in 2018.
yeah.
So
No, and I
consistent.
based those bylaws on a model from the ABO.
Mhm.
So, I just gotta go back and look at the contours of that one section that says, the city treasurer has custody of the monies and look at how expansive it is, but that's the only thing that really gives me pause. I mean, I'll go back and look at them, but, But that section that says the treasurer has custody of the money doesn't actually say anything about.
Disbursement.
It didn't say anything about checks.
Well, and in terms of custody of the money, I mean, he's never even asked for a financial report since I've been here.
Well,
I call him up and say, I have checks, he says, come over, and he doesn't even look at them, he signs them and gives them back. So.
yeah, well, that's the way it was when I was doing the books for AIDA. But, we were in City Hall, so we just went, oh, the treasurer, come on down and do it. So we had the physical, we had our own bank account. But the disbursements went from the treasurer.
So there's these things I'm sensing you wanna tighten up,
Yeah,
right?
well, or to clarify.
Yeah, clarify.
So I need to clarify that section, but I think.
So I am inviting you all, after I give you the cliff notes, to go back in and now they'll help you take a different kind of look. As we mentioned, Rob will go back in and look at our bylaws, Karen's taking a good look at them. And this, only other thing I wanted to say is that I've been sending packets out in a certain way. I'm always open to any feedback. If my cover memo's too much, I really kind of like to set the stage for our meetings. So let me know if it's ever too much, not enough. My job is to make sure that I create an environment in here that enables us all to do really good business together. So I don't want my way of being to be, disruptive to that, but you are kind of getting a sense of my style, okay? So, if there's nothing else to come before us, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
I have one other question.
That's fine.
So Katie asked about the checks and
Yeah.
going electronic and.
Right.
Do we need to talk about that?
Do we need to vote on that?
Cause I'm in favor of
Yeah, I am.
modernizing. our
Well, why don't we, do you think that's something we need to vote on?
I don't think we need to do that right now.
I don't think we need.
How many you got left there, Katie? You got
You're done.
Of you, but it makes me nervous because it's such an inaccurate.
What, is it gonna involve the expenditure of money to go that direction?
You said $200?
I think it could be about
Just to buy the
200.
checks.
I mean, we could, I mean,
Let's do a
that,
quick motion.
Then, you do a quick motion on it.
We have enough.
We got it.
Yes, so I'd like to entertain a motion to approve moving our checkbook system from manual to electronic. And the related expense, I guess we need a motion. So move by Katie, second. Terry Cuddy, any more discussion about that?
Thanks for bringing the improvement idea forward.
Thank you. All those in favor?
I-
Any opposed, abstentions? Welcome to the new world.
We
I just assume so much.
just need to know who can sign those checks once they're.
Now we just need to know that part. All right, we can stop the recording. All right, well, I'm always open to your questions, comments, concerns,
That was
feedback,
the
all
details.
of that, okay? Right, so Katie, now that we've kind of gotten some head nods around what the work of that
I'm
committee
gonna
would be.
be cool out
Yeah.
next week.